It's Franky. Welcome to the Think Tank. So this morning I would like to touch on the Lori Vallow case. As we know, it's coming right around the corner here. So what I want to talk about is the alibi and if there's any kind of what happens because it came in so late. And I want to know what your thoughts are on all of this. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it? So here we go. Lori and her team. So just days before defendant Lori Daybell's trial is to start, the state on Wednesday filed a response to her January claim of an alibi. So Daybell is charged with the unaliving of her two children, JJ, who was 7, and Tylee, 16. She is currently waiting for the trial to be held on April 3rd, so write that down. She is right now at the Ada County Jail. So in January, she, through her attorneys, claimed that she had an alibi as to when the kids were unalived. She is also saying that she has some type of alibi when her 5th husband, Chad Daybell, when his first wife was unalived. There is so much to this case. So in the January filing, Daybell's lawyers, who is Jim Archibald and John Thomas, wrote that the kids were in Lori's brother Alex Cox's apartment when they died. So one thing we want to keep notice of, both Lori and her brother Alex were in the same building, just separate apartments. So Lori was in her own apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, when JJ and Tylee died in the apartment of Alex Cox, Rexburg, Idaho. They wrote defendant was with Melanie Gibb and David Warwick. So I just want to see if we've got a picture here with Lori and Melanie Gibb. No, I don't right now. So that is, like we were saying, that's Chad's previous wife. So she's saying that when she passed away, that she was in Hawaii. Tylee Ryan was last seen on September 8th, 2019, after being in Yellowstone National Park that she took with Lori, her brother, and JJ. So her brother is Alex Cox, as we were speaking about up here when they're talking about whose apartment these kids passed away in. She's saying her unalived brother. Well, they're saying natural causes. I don't know with this case, but he's no longer alive. So the last known sighting of JJ was September 23rd, 2019. And then Chad and Lori got married on November 5th, 2019 in Hawaii. So what is the very uncomfortable thing about this is his first wife had only passed away or murdered on October 19th, 2019. She died at the Salem home that she shared with Chad Daybell and their 5 children. So we're going to have to take another peek. Has this been called murder again? So in January filing, Archibald and Thomas wrote that Daybell was not in Idaho when Tammy Daybell was murdered. Lori Vallow was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell died at the home of Chad Daybell in Salem, Idaho. Defendant was with Melanie Boudreau, and Audrey. I'll just say Audrey B. Archibald and Thomas wrote, in Wednesday's filing, the state wrote that Daybell's notice of alibi came in late. in the state's request for discovery on June 15th, 2021. It had requested in written notice of the defendant's alibi in the motion. The state asked that Vallow'S Daybell tell them where she was at the time of these crimes and to provide the witnesses' dates. So she was supposed to do this within 10 days of receiving that request. And it actually came in the beginning of January this year. So it is saying that the case was postponed, and the time frame to respond did not start until April 11th, 2022, which still is nowhere near the time that it was. They had 10 days, not a year and 10, not a year and 2. Like, they just seem to have chosen when they want to respond to any of these filings. So in this filing, the state writes evidence showing that Vallow'S Daybell participated in the crimes of unaliving, conspiracy, and grand theft. Further, the state intends to call the named and previously disclosed witnesses or admit the following: previously disclosed evidence in its case of chief and in rebuttal to refute the defendant's claim of an alibi. In other Vallow'S Daybell trial news, her attorney will be presenting jury questionnaires to potential jurors. So this is basically, they will go on to say there's not a right or a wrong answer, but both sides are wanting to get, of course, jurors that are agreeable with their case. So Vallow'S was just recently transported to Boise, Idaho, where she's being held in that Ada County jail. And again, her fifth husband, Chad Daybell, is also charged in these unalivings and the death of his first wife, Tammy. So I wonder how he is going to break up these trials. We've got Tammy and the 2 kids. 7th District Judge Stephen Boyce recently severed the joint trials, here we go, of Daybell and Vallow'S. Daybell's trial has yet to be rescheduled. Boyce also recently took capital punishment off of the table as the penalty for Vallow'S alleged crimes. So now she faces up to life in prison. And they just did that recently. In the filings, Vallow'S Daybell's attorney tell potential jurors there's no right or wrong answers to these questions, and that everybody will be treated with dignity. They're just asking for honest and complete answers. So Archibald and Thomas write that any questions they ask about potential jurors' feelings and opinions about punishment does not mean Vallow'S is automatically guilty of a crime. She is presumed by law to be innocent, they said. This questioning does not mean that we think she is guilty or that the attorneys expect her to be convicted. This questioning is required by law in every trial. Archibald and Thomas also wrote that they would ask the jurors about their feelings concerning a possible life sentence with no possible chance of parole or probation. So we must ask questions of the prospective jurors at the beginning of the case about all possible events, no matter how remote they may be. This is the only opportunity we have to ask jurors questions. You are not to draw any conclusions about this case or the evidence from the fact that we are asking you about punishment before we've even been to trial. Lawyers also wrote should Vallow'S be convicted in her child's murders, the law is satisfied with life in prison. So we know from an earlier video, look at that playlist, that she was, it was taken off the table for her as far as life in prison. She's just batshit crazy, in my opinion. So, of course, we got Tylee and JJ. This here is the deceased wife of Chad Daybell. This would be the condo in Hawaii. All happy and smiley. His wife just passed away. Her kids are, oh my word. Yeah, in Hawaii. All cheers. And Tylee and JJ. May they rest in peace. Okay, so let's see here. Slushy and wet out in our
documents in the Vallow'S Daybell case, shining a little more light on what we can expect in her trial. Vallow'S is charged with murder and conspiracy in the deaths of her 2 kids and her husband's late wife. On Wednesday, the prosecution filed a response to Vallow'S notice of an alibi. Her defense team filed that alibi notice back in January, claiming she was in her apartment with 3 other people.
We'll go through this in a minute. I've got it set up for us.
When the murder of her kids happened in her brother's apartment nearby. Now, prosecutors argue her defense had 10 days from the day she was arraigned to file that alibi notice. Well, she was arraigned April 19th of last year, and the notice of alibi was filed January 5th of this year, so long past that 10 days. The prosecution also says the alibi does not protect Vallow from the conspiracy or grand theft charges. They also say they plan to call several witnesses who will just flat out refute that alibi. Her trial is scheduled to start April 3rd in Ada County.
You betcha. So let's see here. We'll just get there. Yeah, less than 2 weeks before the trial. And they did send out that notice of an alibi. Now, that's a couple years ago now, and we know that this is for the deaths of Joshua or JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan, who were both killed back in September of 2019. But this notice also states that Lori's brother, Alex Cox, is the one who unalived these kids in his apartment in the same complex. So this is still interesting to me. We just talked about it, that he died after the children were reported missing and before they were found. So I find that extremely interesting. I'll have to double check and see if I have any kind of paperwork as to what was going on with him, because again, it's super suspicious, isn't it? So let's see here. The prosecuting attorney's office argued that Vallow'S defense had 10 days. Well, and this is the thing. And now we are on 2023. Almost a complete year from the last time it would have been in effect. Okay, so again, the trial is to start on April 3rd in the Ada County Courthouse. And I cannot remember if this one is going to be streamed. I'll have to take another look, because there's so many cases going on right now that a person's just trying to cover everybody. So starting April 3rd, in other new developments, the court considered and denied a request to make the trial available. Here we are. Virtually via live stream. So this will not be happening. Denied a request to make it available virtually. So it's going to be basically updates. The in-person proceeding with the Ada County Courthouse will be viewable in an overflow room there and in the designated courtroom. Okay, so under an order, Boyce issued September 22nd, live or recorded video or still photographs are not allowed in the trial or pre-trial hearings in this case. The court order was in response to a motion filed by Vallow'S. So, yeah, we are going to have to see what comes here. Doesn't look.
Newly released documents in the Vallow'S Daybell case, shining a little more light on what we can expect in her trial. Vallow'S is charged with murder and conspiracy in the deaths of her 2 kids and her husband's late wife. On Wednesday, the prosecution filed a response to Vallow'S notice of an alibi.
So with that said, I just wanted to bring this up. So we also do not want to forget that her husband, her last husband, was also murdered by, this one was Lori's brother, Alex. And I do believe we've got a little bit of information. I haven't done a full stream or video on that particular case because seriously, guys, I mean, it's everywhere. It's absolutely, so many people have died due to these guys. It blows me away. They've been a two-man wrecking crew. So this here is the paperwork, and it comes from the Fremont County and the deputy clerk. So this is notice of alibi, and plaintiff being Idaho versus Lori Daybell, and the case number. Come now, the attorneys for the defendant and pursuant of Idaho Criminal Rule 12.1 and Idaho Code 19-519 provide notice of alibis as follows. Number one, Lori Vallow was in her own apartment in Rexburg, Idaho, when J.J. Vallow and Taylor Ryan died in the apartment of Alex Cox in Rexburg, Idaho. The defendant was with Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, and or Chad Daybell. Number two, Lori Vallow was in Hawaii when Tammy Daybell died at the home of Chad Daybell in Salem, Idaho. Defendant was with Melanie Boudreau and or Audrey B. And this is when it was submitted to the court. And this is where they're running into a little bit of problems because it's a lot further along than the 10 days. Certificate of service. I hereby certify that on this day, I served a true and correct copy of this document on the following by method of delivery indicated. E-file, dated the lawyers. Notice of alibi. So what they're going to do with this, I really don't know. We'll have to see what the outcome is because it's over a year late. So it has given them a lot of time to ponder and work, and I just don't know what they do in a case like this where there's literally over a year. So we're going to have to sit back and see, friends. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and let you know that if there is something else coming out as far as this alibi, we'll talk about this again because they are saying that it will not clear her. This is not, it's not really acceptable. So with that said, friends, I am going to jump off and then I am going to take a look at a little bit more paperwork and see if I can figure out what they plan on doing with this now. Okay, thanks for being here with me and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.